everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight's edition of Three Geek Girls. Yay!
Yeah.
Happy Thursday.
I wish I could
We
hear
hope
you
everybody-
guys.
Oh no. Well, hopefully we don't have to disconnect Kelly and then bring her back. But if we do, she'll be back.
Yep.
We'll try again. We can hear you.
Yeah, we
Kelly.
can hear you.
We can hear you. We can see you. But Kelly's having some problems on her end because it wouldn't be Two Geek Girls if we didn't. Do you want to unplug and come back? Yeah. Let's see if that happens. So,
Okay.
thank you everybody who is here joining us. Hi. How's everyone doing?
Hello.
We hope you're having a fantastic week. Happy Thursday. Let's see. It is, of course, Winter Soldier Thursday, Friday morning, 3 o'clock here because we're on the East Coast. How has everyone's week been, and what else are we anticipating this week?
Well, my week's been good. I got my first vaccine shot on Tuesday.
Me too. Wednesday. How's your arm doing?
It feels much better. I can actually stretch my arm now. Yesterday, not so much. Today, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Today, I guess today's the second day, and of course, everyone at work had to poke it last night, so feels fabulous.
Oh yeah.
Why? Just because I had a polka dot Band-Aid on? That's not fair.
I had the Walgreens one on, and while I love how adorable they are, they don't stick for shit.
Oh no, mine stuck.
So I took a nap and woke up, and I was like, well, the Band-Aid's gone.
Yeah, somewhere in the bed sheets.
Yeah, I found it later, but basically.
How you doing there, Kelly? Can you hear us?
I can hear you,
Okay.
but let's see. Then it apparently reset the router on my Wi-Fi part on my end. So let's see, but it's still saying that there's modem issues. Okay. So I'm doing pretty good, I guess, ish. But it's same old. I'm sure I'm tired of hearing about how I know desperately probably need to start a new GoFundMe to help me move out. But other than that is okay. Today is the anniversary of Scream. It's been 10 years since Scream 4, and it seems like a bunch of Gen Zers, because it's set at the time I graduated high school, so everybody's kind of much or Lissa's age. So that was kind of not like my Scream, but I remember going to see it in 2010 and being excited about it.
Yep. That was. And
it was good. It was good. It has a really good meaning of screw, hey, don't, one of Neve Campbell's last lines is don't F with the original, because it plays on that whole reboot culture, which was way ahead of its time at that point, because here we are still rebooting everything instead of anything else. So a bunch of Gen Zers on Twitter have seemed to revitalize the movie, saying, oh my goodness, why didn't I sleep on this? But I mean, at the time it came out, everybody was Paranormal Activity and bust.
Yeah.
So Scream didn't really fit there.
Yeah.
I know that for the for the anniversary, some fan came out with a conceptual Scream 5 trailer, which is now making its rounds. It is fake. They haven't even started production. They were going to start production on Scream 5 before COVID hit, but now I think it's sometime this year is when they'll start filming. So they are doing Scream 5. It's just going to be Scream, but the original the cast where their characters are still alive are back. And it should still be a trope, I'm sure, on reboots and the like the last one. So we'll see where that goes.
Scream is the one.
I felt like Scream 4 tied it up.
You would think,
Yeah.
All right. And I remember that. Is that you, Lisa, or is that me?
You go.
Okay. Oh no, I heard a fan
It's not
sound.
me.
Yeah. I got
Yeah.
to see Scream in theaters, and I remember how much it was. So okay, so here we go. We're jumping to the genre first. Drew Barrymore being the red herring of it. Great, awesome. That's a throwback to Psycho. Getting to see this dissection of horror movies done so well. It's not the first time, but it was certainly the biggest. That was certainly the most mass marketed version, and it's the one that took off. There's a reason there were so many sequels afterwards. Each movie has good things about it, even though I would put like 1, 4, and then maybe 3 and 2 might be my order. Each one has like its own thing about it. At the time when everybody was becoming a Scream queen, everybody was diving into this. And speaking of reboots, Slumber Party Massacre
they had
is getting a reboot.
Huh.
Yeah. So yes, they're all being rebooted.
It's supposed to be a remake, not a reboot. Yeah, well, it's not supposed to be a reboot. It's supposed to be a remake, and it's gonna be. I'm trying to think because it's the people they have writing the script is interesting. Like, it very clearly won't be anything like the original. So I'm interested to see, but I think that's still with Blumhouse. But see, that's the whole thing, is everyone calls remakes reboots, but they're not reboots, they're remakes, versus a reboot is a continuation after a certain number of years to utilize the series. And I've gone into depth discussions with this, and I think like the last time I was on some podcast that had a bunch of the local wrestlers, and they basically dismissed me, and I was the only girl, and I was like, of course you would, because patriarchy. But yeah, that was because that's like the whole thing that I feel like we use that term reboot interchangeably, and we need to we really need to stop, because it's the whole reboots are very different than remakes, and right now everything, especially horror wise, Blumhouse seems to be a remake, because I know like they're talking about doing a new Frankenstein, although this is going to be like in vein of like the way that they did the Invisible Man earlier.
Okay.
So instead of showing it through the monster's eyes, or Dr. Frankenstein, like has been done 10 times before, it's going to be played through Igor.
Okay.
So like a third party, which I think is kind of interesting if it's done right. We'll have to see. Yeah, and I mean, heck, what was it? Blumhouse even did a remake of Love Island as a horror.
Saw that.
Is interesting. I kind of want to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
I say, yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it. You go to an island that is filled with your best, like your wildest fantasy, but it's always
Island,
be careful what you wish for.
Right. Fantasy Island. Not Love Boat, not Love Island. Fantasy Island. You're thinking Love Boat.
Whatever.
Which would also make a great horror. That would be a great horror. Let's do that.
That would actually be really fun. Yeah, there you go. Love Boat.
For that.
That's what I meant.
No, you're Jack.
70 shows. 70 shows. Not.
Well, the question is then,
I think I'm having a delay. I'm sorry, guys. I must be having like a severe delay.
It's okay.
It's okay. We'll work it out. Yeah. What's interesting, so I think somebody here asked, it's going to be on Sci-Fi. It is, and they're making sure that, I think did they also announce they're going to do a female director again for that one, for Slumber Party Massacre? I can't remember.
It was like, it was like a female director, and I think there was a mostly female writing staff.
Yeah.
Behind it. Yeah. So it definitely won't be. I would be. I kind of hope that it's still like a super slasher.
Yeah.
But I would like to see I like to see where they're taking this, because it's definitely going to be a remake, so an updated. But I don't know how it's going to react.
I mean, it could go the same way that the remake of Psycho did.
That was just a shot.
That's
for
true.
shot. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, that's. Yeah, and you know, Vince Vaughn is not Anthony Perkins. So
No. Don't get me wrong, he did with what he could, he did well. But again, as you said, Vince Vaughn, not Anthony Perkins.
No.
They have two
Yeah,
very different
well,
styles, and he was not a good fit for it. As much as he may be passionate about it, passion does not always translate to a good performance.
Who did the Shining remake that they did?
What Shining remake?
There have been several Shining iterations because there was
remake. Yeah.
I have no idea.
I mean, I know
there's a Shining series. There was the original Shining movie. They've done the Shining remake.
Yeah. There was like the mini. Yeah.
I've never seen the Shining remake. Was it like a TV
mini series?
Okay.
That they did.
I never watched. They were doing what was it? That was the one where it was like anything Stephen King like. Stephen King kind of went to I think it was like NBC or USA and was like, hey, I want y'all to do this exactly faithful to everything that I want. And it was very quick, like things like Rose Red, Dark Towers, just everything that ever he was doing the miniseries on. It wasn't that great because the thing is what might translate really well in a book doesn't always translate well in a movie. It's one of those things like maybe the author needs to have a step back as much as, you know, he liked, Michael, he hated the Kubrick version.
Yeah.
The movie.
And I don't blame him.
So if
the
they
Kubrick
did the Shining miniseries, I think that was, it wasn't faithful.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Like it did vary a lot from his vision for the book. But there is a way to translate things for screen and not lose the spirit of the book.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say take the Carrie reboot example, and I mean, there's been a ton of Carrie reboots, including TV movies and miniseries, and the most recent one, which the most recent one I think is a good mixture of everything. Like, I actually don't think it's a bad remake, but like to me, the first one's a classic, even though it does take a whole lot of the story out. It keeps it to the basics, but I know Stephen King didn't really like it versus, you know, the little TV movie they did, awful. But I think that also that boiled down to like bad casting. And then, because they tried to do a shot for shake, you know, and then adding in the faithful scenes, but it didn't work. And then like the one with Chloe, I cannot remember. Yeah,
Chloe Grace Moretz.
She does a great job, but there's still some miscast. And while they add in more of the book, which is cool, it falls flat because it just doesn't have the same charm as the original. And I think that's kind of where like you need to figure out your balance here. And unfortunately, I think sometimes when authors get a little too heavy into the adaptation, it can lose its sight because they're super hyper, especially Stephen King. He's always hyper focused on these tiny, minute details because he feels those details are super important, and they are, but there's a way of handling them, and he doesn't quite always understand that. Well, so sometimes it's better for him to just be mad as long as it works.
And when you give Stephen King full control, now I'm not saying I dislike this movie, but you get something like Maximum Overdrive. He was the director of that. It is campy as fuck. Don't get me wrong. I love it because of the camp. But it's not a good movie.
No.
The best part of that movie is the fact that AC/DC did the score. There's so much about, and especially in when we think of the Stephen King books, we think about the era he was in when he wrote the mass number of books that we consider the classics. Yeah. And that the best movies were made out of. So much of what made those movies good was you had a writing team and a director team come in who understood what was happening in films at the time. Yeah. And the audiences that we're looking at. Stephen King understands his audience. that doesn't mean he always understands, just like a lot of people don't always understand what audiences are relating to currently. One shining example of this, especially when you get into a story like Carrie that has so much to do with a modern, at the time, modern girl in modern school, has its own bullying and its own problems and its own feeling that people had about it. How do you get people to relate to the person they're probably picking on?
Yeah.
Like the mass number of people that are in an audience are the bad guys. They're not Carrie. And yet they have to see something in her that they can sympathize and empathize with. So,
Yes.
okay, so how do you take Little Women and consistently modernize it to be something relevant? They have to change it. They do change it. They change what part of the characters we focus on. They've changed Marmee. They've changed so much of the characters from when the book was originally written. They've still kept in parts that the author herself didn't like, but was told by her publisher she had to put in, and that becomes kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing that happens in the movies now. There is a reason why even the most recent one is considered relevant, and that is, a lot of what has to be adapted to what's foremost in somebody's mind today and still feel original.
Yeah, and
That's
see, that's
not
the
always
thing.
going to be easy if the author is so attached to something that meant so much to them at the time that they wrote it.
Well,
Doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to us today, and doesn't necessarily, as you say, translate.
That's why, like, in some ways, like, when you have these adaptation of books where the author is long since dead, you end up with better adaptations because of the fact that the author is not hounding you.
Yeah, hounding you and clutching onto something so tight that they won't.
Well,
and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
That depends on the author.
Yeah.
But that also depends on the author because, I mean, I don't think the author of, like, Ready Player One was like that with Steven Spielberg at all. And, those movies is completely different than the book, thankfully, even though the movie is also not the greatest either. But, because that book is trash. People forget that book is utter trash. So, again, in those situations, that's fine, because the thing is, if they can figure out the fact that, like, hey, once I write my work, I'm done with it and I'm moving on to the next thing. And they know how to let go and they know how to handle it and handle the criticism and stuff like that. It gets easier for them to see adaptations or influences of their work in other people's things versus there's people that have these, there's like, it's either the ego, like with J.K. Rowling, or, I think with Stephen King, he pours his heart and soul into each book. And so that's why there's probably a little bit of ego there too. But, he pours out everything he's feeling, even when he's completely, like, high off drugs, as we have seen in some of these books. And
yes, Donnie, we know it aired on ABC.
We know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, how long ago was it? 26 years? Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or longer, or at least, like, I think Rose Red was 20 years ago.
And another heyday, like, okay, so we're talking in the early 2000s, around the same time Scream, if I'm remembering right, like,
that was 95, yeah.
So that would make sense with a lot of the miniseries. Also, they can't quite get the film, or they don't, okay, great. So they're going to do a miniseries. They're going to do, a ratings grab. They're going to do something, and, I'm trying to think. We had this lull for a while of letting go of miniseries, letting go of limited run, and then they came back because several were very successful. And I'm trying to think of the last successful horror miniseries.
That's actually a very good question that I don't honestly remember.
I think, like, although I don't know if we would necessarily call it a mini series, because I think they either got extended or they were just seasons that got cut short. But Sci-Fi has had a lot of good ones, like what's the one with Christopher Maloney? Happy. I think that one had a very, very limited run, even though that was amazing. Although I think it might have. I think originally it was going to be a limited run, and then it was. Then I think it got extended to 2 seasons, but I think it was never meant to be something long term. Also most BBC shows with horror only ever last 1 season. So to me, I would consider those, especially because with the BBC, it's normally 6 to 8 episodes. That would be more of a mini series.
Yes.
They've done really, really well. There was a one with like an agency. And it was like horror-based sci-fi that's been doing really well. So I mean, they're out there, and especially now with streaming services.
Yeah.
Because there's like them. I know, like everyone's watching Amazon, House on Haunting Hill or Blythe Hill, because those are anthologies. Okay.
Haunting of Hill House is technically considered a miniseries.
Yeah, because it's an anthology. So the second season's an anthology.
Yeah, that one falls under that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, Haunting of Bly Manor, as you mentioned, because it is an anthology.
Yep.
So
they're there. They are happening. They're hitting all the different veins. I don't know if American Horror Story. It's like series of miniseries. It's like a series.
Yeah, American Horror Stories. So
they're all
complicated.
Connected.
Yeah. So the thing is while they're an anthology, they're connected. I mean, like there's the fan theory that we're going to go through 9 gates of hell. Although I think we might extend that. I think it might be like 13 seasons or something. I'm not sure exactly what they're choosing to do, but everything is interconnected, and that's why everything kind of comes back, especially towards that apocalypse season. That kind of turned me off because it wasn't great. And it made
there are definitely ones that are better than ones that,
So, but I've heard that the 1985, that one's supposed to be really great, but that one also still makes mention of Hotel Cortez, and in fact it actually features a serial killer that was a part of Hotel Cortez, and kind of other places he haunts and what he did when he was alive.
Hotel was Yep.
Because it's like it's a bit like a Richard Ramirez type slasher kind of deal.
Yeah.
So it still connects everything, and so to me that I don't consider it a true anthology just because it's still connected. Like every history still ties into one of them. They always have to do some kind of murder house episode. They always have to do a coven episode. So it doesn't quite count. Even though it is the same actors and actresses playing different characters every season.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you have a couple of specific actors who are reappearing as the same character in different seasons that are close enough in years that the character can appear in both.
Yeah.
It's just, it never fails. I always end up with that little bit of frustration that horror films and series just rarely get the due that they're deserved.
Yeah.
They don't. And I mean, the thing is consistently what's the thing that entertains most people? Horror movies. What's the thing that consistently stays at least on par with consistency is horror movies. I know that there was a time during the 70s and 80s where they were doing the Pulp Fiction, and it was all like student films, and it wasn't very high quality, but that was a game. But consistently, Blumhouse has been putting out like quality work after quality work, and no one cares, and everyone still treats Blumhouse, even though they got absorbed into Universal a long time ago. They still treat them like they're this Indiegogo, fund me movie studio. And that hasn't been the case in a very long time. But I think that a large part of it's just no one takes it seriously. Maybe it's because most of your directors and writers start off in horror. Most of your actors start off in horror. And, it just winds up being that's the kind of starting point, or that's the popcorn flick that should deserve the movies. However, last Oscars with the Korean horror film.
Yes.
Parasite.
Parasite.
Parasite, that won Best Picture. So I mean, things
Get
can
Out.
be
Get Out.
yeah,
got
Get
a lot
Out.
of-
I mean, things are they're slowly being given their dues. I think it's just it's more of a quiet situation. They're never going to be blockbusters that we expect them to be.
And that right there is probably what happened with the Dark Universe. Not just Tom Cruise, not just this, but the idea that you have first you decided because you were going to turn something into blockbusters, you were going to turn it into your tentpole franchise. You weren't going to go back to the source. You weren't going to go back to the people who have turned these stories into cult classics that still sell. And people still watch and people still talk about, and they're still the bar for a lot of filmmaking. So you bifurcated, even though you wanted to create a horror dark universal, you bifurcated away from horror and brought in people who don't know anything about it.
Yep.
So
and here's a good question. So
okay,
why did Blair Witch blow up? It's fun. How did it find notoriety?
That was because
marketing.
I mean,
it was all about marketing.
It was the marketing.
And then on top of that, the found footage style was not nearly as common. It was very
it was new.
Yeah,
but,
it was very new.
Ultimately, it was also one of the internet's first ARGs. And that was kind of the thing, is that people forget that entire summer they were putting out viral campaigns across the internet, and people legitimately thought it was real because it was an ARG. But I want to get back to the Dark Universe, because I was trying to talk about that before the question got popped up.
Sorry.
It's fine. But yeah, so the thing with that was Tom Cruise was so dead set on basically taking like a Brendan Fraser role for it when he heard about the that he pretty much wedged, like Scientology wedged his way in, which is kind of what made that bad. But at the same time, I don't know if it would have ever gotten off the ground, because at the time they were also trying to do the big blockbusters like they were with Dracula or
Bride of Frankenstein. All of it.
No, not Bride. Not a Bride. I mean, Bride of Frankenstein they didn't really do anything with that. I think they were talking about it. They're still talking about it. The thing is the Dark Universe is still happening. It's just they use Blumhouse and Blumhouse creators for things like Invisible Man, and as much as thanks to COVID it didn't do very well, it still, I think, was a very good sleeper hit for what they were expecting. And to me, it's really, really intriguing from the way they do it, because let's be fair, the Invisible Man told from his perspective isn't that scary as much as it is he's a jerk, and you need to realize that that's what makes that book scary. That's what makes that story compelling, is this man is not good. So to tell it from his victim's perspective brings a new life to it.
Yeah.
And I from that, I know that they've been wanting to do more movies. I think like the whole, like, they've greenlit a movie. I know that they've been talking about possibly bringing back a new Mummy from a different perspective. Definitely the Bride of Frankenstein after Frankenstein, I'm sure, because they've been talking about Bride of Frankenstein forever. They've done a huge marketing push for her specifically, including the horror house, although they've been doing classic monster houses for a while, but that was the one that they used to test how this Halloween Horror Nights might go. Was that one, which was really good. Like, I can tell from what you can see on the videos and stuff, like, they had a good story there that they didn't want to get rid of. They were like, no, we've got to, like, use this and play with this. So that's, I have a feeling that's Universal still wants this to happen. They're going to have their Universal Monster Land that they've been talking about since 1994. So, that's finally happening. That's been greenlit. That's, doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Universal really wants this to happen, but I think that they needed somebody like Blumhouse, something that was more focused in horror and more focused in that lore, versus Tom Cruise's production company, because he wants to be Tom Cruise. In fact, they actually, like, the original idea for his character was supposed to be someone who is Tom Cruise's age, and he made them drastically change the age because someone is insecure about how old he is.
Aging. I'm not aging. I'm a Scientologist. We don't age.
Yeah. So
I'm never gonna die.
Yeah. So I think that they've learned from their mistake slightly, or at least they've realized that like maybe we should leave this to the people that are focused on this genre, and we will walk away and just kind of promote it as best we can. Because I know that they tried to push The Invisible Man, but they were unsure how. It wasn't going to do well in the box office, but I think it still would have done what it's done now, just from people being able to rent it, because people like to rent horror movies at home. Sometimes it's fun to see the big blockbusters in the theaters, but not with the way that they were marketing that one. I think that would have ever been a big hit. And two, horror movies generally don't dominate the box office like they did in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
So that's
There's that again, the consistency that you mentioned, but that's not the same as the blowout $500 million weekend that everybody wants from everything now.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen with a horror movie unless it's something groundbreaking.
And that's the thing, is that everybody, some of them aren't willing, like these big producers that could have the money to push the marketing appropriately, maybe make a new ARG, use TikTok, have fun. I mean, my goodness, look at horror TikTok. They're just like high school kids having fun, and they can creep you out. Like, they are really, really good. No one's taking a chance on those kids because they're afraid of how much money they're going to lose. And something in like this economy and how bad the media market has been hit thanks to COVID, this is going to be that way for a while. Stuff like Scream, I think, because they've seen that surge in people watching the old slasher movies, the 80s and 90s and early 2000 slashers, they want that again. And Josh, not ARC, ARG, it's augmented reality game. Yep. And so it's basically like a LARP almost, but it's got little...
If you are familiar with Pokemon Go is technically an ARG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it had a lot of technology in it that most ARGs don't.
Yeah, Pokemon Go is a combination of ARG and a geocaching game.
Yeah.
But that is the one that is in most people's pop culture mind these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Random Nautica, I think, is the latest ARG using geocaching as well. And that one's a lot of weirdness too. So that's really creepy and fun to look online.
Yeah. That's like, person finds suitcase with in it. I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll wait a few moments to do that one. Thanks.
It's awkward. It's weird. I don't think I would play it. Like, it's kind of like, don't mess with the Ouija board. Don't mess with Random Nautica.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have
as much idea. As none of it makes sense, but it's something like that. So yeah, a lot of one of the newer horror things too is to play ARGs. There's also lately like Hunt a Killer has Blair Witch stuff.
Yep.
And that was a whole mess for me to get my first two episodes, my first two boxes. Fun too, because that kind of horror game brings you into it and almost is like it's almost a sequel to the ARG from the 90s. It's just, instead of being online, it's a box with paperwork and like I got a bracelet with a tooth on it.
And if you guys there's also a finder Bailey. So I watch the Murder Makeup Mondays with Bailey Sarian. So if you go to her YouTube channel and you subscribe, you'll get a code for Hunt a Killer. Because if that sounds interesting to you at all, it probably will be worth every penny. That definitely looks interesting to me.
I mean, I kind of just open them up. I need to play with people. I've learned that already. because I get distracted and I don't want to read everything.
So it is a lot. It's pretty intricate, and it keeps growing. So that's one of those ones. But yeah, if you're curious about what those are, horror is the perfect genre for them.
Well, and indie horror games have been doing great in the past 5-10 years too. I mean, look at FNAF. Like, look at how big FNAF got. Like, it's got games, it's got books, it's got all kinds of merchandising. Like, that blew the fuck up.
Yeah. Horror is still a huge market. It just doesn't get the marketing that it deserves. And I ultimately, I think, too, Blair Witch and, like, the fact that ARG cost almost nothing for the studio, because it was just a bunch of interns. Like, it would now be social media. It was just a bunch of interns having fun and just getting little amounts, like, of paperwork here and there at different conventions and stuff, and, like, really driving it home and being creepy.
They knew the audience.
But it showed. What happened was it showed they didn't have to spend a whole lot of money, and that's not always the case. Too, Blair Witch didn't cost a whole lot of money to make.
Yeah.
So,
but this is what they want when they do a horror movie. Studios want when they do a horror movie. They want something that doesn't cost anything, barely has to be marketed. You can splash the movie theaters with it, and it'll make all of this money back.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while that happens. But that's not always the case.
Blair Witch is the prime example of viral marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to hit that viral marketing scheme, but not everyone does. And Blair Witch was one of the first big ones in pop culture that you can think of.
Well, I mean, it's literally a case study.
Yeah.
I mean, now, like, they teach exactly what happened and how they did it now in college, like, for marketing. Yep. It is literally known as this revolutionary tactic, and really ultimately created like I said, the ARGs into popular vernacular.
Yes.
But, it's, again, people assume that these things will just kind of happen and fall on their laps, and they don't treat horror like they would an action movie. Like, I mean, if they treated the next Scream like Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious.
We'd see we'd see a Ghostface everywhere. Instead, the only time you want to see Ghostface, which if you go type in that on Etsy, you'll get everything Ghostface, because everyone loves Ghostface. But you don't see that as much in official merch anymore. Now I know Universal kind of basically has a large part of that could also be because that was a part of the Weinstein Miramax stuff, and that's gone. So there's probably that kind of confusion right now. But I think that absorbed into Sony, didn't it? Didn't Sony take that? Yeah.
Also, another thing with Ghostface is that technically Ghostface, like the costume,
the
Scream is actually owned by a costuming company.
This is true. Yeah. There's that whole fight because they just bought the costume, because they were thinking of it along the lines of when in Halloween, for original Halloween, John Carpenter's costume department just spray painted a Captain Kirk mask white for Michael Myers.
Michael Myers, yeah. Yes.
And that now and I don't think that I think it was a ruby, or what rubies turned into, and also rubies. Although I'm sure that they'll snap back, but they had to file bankruptcy during COVID again. It's like the third time. It's not good. But whatever got absorbed there from that original mask, I don't think that they ever sued Halloween, John Carpenter or anything. But the company that for Ghostface did go, oh, okay, no, and tried to sue them. And what was it? I think Miramax won the lawsuit, but the copyright still stays with the costuming company.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
Yeah, so they always have to pay royalties out to them, but technically Miramax won because they created the character Ghostface. It didn't come from the ghost costume itself, or the Grim Reaper costume itself.
Or Yep.
It's a weird thing because I think the judge was just like, this is dumb.
I was like, this is what I went to law school for right here. Jesus.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
So
you are not helping at all. Okay.
Was that Captain Kirk mask from Ruby's or Don Shea Studios?
I think it was originally Don Shea, but I think that the rights for the mask itself wound up getting absorbed to Ruby's later on, like years later. Like the actual Captain Kirk mask, because now if you go, like, you'll find that mask made by Ruby's, but I don't think that they were the makers of it in the 70s, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it probably was a Don Shea originally.
There you go.
There was a time where Ruby's bought everybody, okay?
Oh yeah. There
was a time Ruby's was the mega house, and now they're struggling. But yeah, there was a time.
It always reminds me of Madame Tussauds or something like that. Like
Also, that's another one. Like House of Wax would be a good remake. Like if somebody did the actual original script and not the remake script, even though I do like the remake. That had like Jared Padalecki and Hillary Burton and Paris Hilton, because it's really dumb and weird, but it works. That's not a true remake of the original, and that would be a really, really good one, because that would be a psychological horror that people don't quite know, because no one ever watches Vincent Price anymore, which is horrible.
Vincent Price is amazing. This man, my birthday is the same day as fucking Vincent Price's. Okay, May 27th, Vincent Price. I have 2 of the original fucking horror masters have the same birthday as me. Vincent Price and, god damn it, why can't I think of his name? Dracula, Count Dooku.
Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee. Yeah, Christopher Lee. Vincent Price and Christopher Lee. Same fucking birthday as me.
It's kismet. It's kismet, Lissa.
Kismet. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
before we go, since I'm going to try and watch it tonight. I'm sure Kelly, I don't know, Lissa, your schedule's all over. I don't know if you're doing another 24-hour marathon D&D or what.
No, I actually just got my new laptop, and so I'm not going to be streaming on Twitch tonight. I'm going to be trying to get that set up.
Okay. So while you're setting that up, before we watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, based on the last shot of the last episode from last week, what are we expecting / hoping to see in this next episode? Because we only got a couple left.
I mean, AO is my captain now, so that's all I care about.
I think because of that last shot of Walker bringing the shield down.
Yeah.
And everyone with the phones getting it on camera. I think what we're going to see is going to be basically think in lines of like the police brutality videos that have made the rounds on social media.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something in lines with that.
So I had made me and a friend had made a meme of putting John Walker's face on Logan Paul's I'm Sorry video. And so I have a feeling it's going to be similar to that of he gets canceled and then he's going to apologize and it's going to create this situation. But ultimately this should be the catalyst for Sam to realize he's got to step up, because there was a reason he was asked to put it on even though he doesn't feel worthy. I mean, there's the whole things going around about the fact that Steve Rogers never called himself Captain America. Everybody else called him Captain America. If he came to you, he was Steve.
Steve Rogers.
He only said Captain America's ass. That's the only thing he ever said.
Yeah, which, again, that was in game, and I don't count half of that because that was all fan service for everybody, even though that has ruined most fans now, because now they assume that they should get everything that they want. But, no, I mean, this is the thing, is that the story is going to show that Sam has to step up. I'm slightly more concerned about what this implies for Wakanda and Bucky and Zemo. Their kind of story. I do want to see where that's going. Yeah. I am worried about Sharon. I want to see exactly what's going on there. There's still so many things at play, and we're not we're not done yet. So we know that this episode's going to bring a lot of it home, but I think we are going to see the destruction of John Walker, which, if we know anything from the comics, it's going to be brutal. And I'm sure you expect that just last scene alone. You don't have to read the comics to understand that. But this is probably going to be a difficult episode to watch. I know that a lot of people on Twitter, more your conservative people, have been upset at Falcon and the Winter Soldier already, even though it's not touching on anything that's not in America now and isn't the truth. Right. So I'm sure we can expect these people are going to spoil everything as soon as they watch it, because they're going to be mad, and Fox News might spoil it, depending on what we see. Because they might
whatever they can do to distract us. Whatever they can do.
Anything, yeah. Because, you know, right now, like, how dare we pull out of a 20-year losing war?
My God.
How dare we? We are showing weakness. We've been there for 20 years, y'all.
Right.
I think it's time. I think I agree with Biden on that one, that we've exhausted all options.
It might be time. So definitely, yeah. I mean, so we got 2 episodes left? This one and one more, if I'm counting right. Okay. It's a lot that has to happen. That's going to a lot of drama, and I'm excited. So
I am too.
There we go. Yay. All right. So I know I've got to get going. But before that, I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you, Alyssa, for everything. Thank you, Kelly, for everything. And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't drop. I know but I didn't drop.
I popped in to be the backup in case, but apparently it wasn't necessary.
Oh, no, no complaints, though. No complaints whatsoever.
Super delayed and definitely glitchy, but did not drop.
Nope.
It wouldn't be one of our streams if there wasn't a technical difficulty somewhere.
No, just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
Yep. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Live long and prosper. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it if you can, and keep sending us those comments, keep sending us suggestions, and let's see what happens on Sunday.
Yep.
Thank
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.